We got a lot of talk and interest in the conversation we had a few days ago with Buck Miller and Eric Batty, 2 of 4 cyclists preparing to set off on that epic 600-kilometer ride on their fat bikes all along the James Bay coast. There's that map from the Attawapiskat First Nation, crossing into Nunavut at Attawapiskat Island, finishing in Smooth Rock Falls, Ontario. As I say, 600 kilometers. Guess what? They did it. They finished. And we're going to catch up with 2 of the 4 this morning. We say good morning again to Buck Miller. Hi, Buck.
Good morning, Heather.
And we talked to Eric last time. We have Ted King with you this time. Hi, Ted.
Good morning, Heather.
Welcome back, guys. You made it.
We did. We're pumped.
You're good.
Super excited.
How are the muscles?
Muscles, 3 of us have pretty sore muscles. Ted took a little crash and hurt his rib. He's
no.
also got an overuse injury on his hand, a bit of tendonitis. I also have an overuse injury on my knee, a bad bit of tendonitis. Eric, his right leg was going numb after day 5. And then Ryan is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with the guy.
He is superhuman. What's that little tip on the nose there, Ted?
Yeah, early on the trip, day 1, we had some pretty low temperatures and pretty high exposure, and so I got a little bit of frostbite. But fingers crossed, it is healing up nicely. We saw a doctor up north, so all things looking good.
Well, it is looking good. Congratulations on completing this. What an amazing thing to have been able to do. How did it compare, Buck, to what you were expecting? We're looking at some pictures here from the trip.
Yeah, so it kind of went down as I anticipated. The crossing into Attawapiskat was, there's a narrow band of open water that prevented us from actually getting to the land, but we did cross into the territory of Nunavut and come back. That was a kind of a big surprise with the coldest, with what the locals are calling an incredibly cold winter up in Attawapiskat. They're like, yeah, we were there 2 weeks ago and now it's open, we can't go. And we were like, oh, geez. So we did cross, we did get far enough over to cross into Nunavut, but we didn't actually touch foot on the land of Attawapiskat Island, which is a big disappointment for me. But the biggest goal was to, raise money and get home safely, and that's what we all did. So by all accounts, it was
the big conclusion is going to be how much money you raised. So hold that thought for a second. But you mentioned the cold, and obviously we talked about Ted's nose. How was the weather that you encountered, Ted?
It definitely ran the spectrum. I mean, early on in the trip, it was as low as -40. So waking up to those brisk temperatures was a eye-opening experience. The next few days were beautiful and just bluebird sky. About halfway through, as we approached Moosonee, we got a downright blizzard. And originally, we were getting reports from people on the road that it might get about 10 centimeters, and then ultimately about 50 centimeters fell. And
we're looking at pictures of you pushing the bikes through that snow.
Yeah.
Even the fat bike tires couldn't get through that easily, I guess.
Exactly, it's wild. Really good. Public works crews working on the road to keep the winter road clear, but yeah, you see in those photos some sections that it's just impassable.
Did you encounter anybody as you were going by, looking at you, these 4 guys on bikes in these really incredible conditions? Did you talk to anybody about what you were doing? What do they say to you?
Yeah, a whole lot of. Yeah, given that the road's only open for these 6 weeks, there's I wouldn't call it a regular flow of traffic, but you see a car every hour or so.
And a truck every hour.
A truck, going down to a little bit more southern, bigger towns, more things going on. So, they stop. They're incredibly inquisitive. They're curious. They take a lot of photos and selfies and say, "How's the trip?" Yeah, we definitely drummed up a lot of interest up there. So
I bet.
Everybody saw exactly what we were doing.
Double takes along the way. Who thinks they're going to be encountering 4 bikes as they're going along the ice road? What about polar bears? Did you encounter them? That was the big concern, Buck.
Yeah, so no polar bears.
Oh,
Thank somebody somewhere. There's no polar bears. And that's exactly the news you want to report back with.
But there's the other news. I'm looking at you, you're both smiling. You're both still talking. Are all 4 of you talking after all this?
No, we're all buddies. It was great. I think Ryan mentioned yesterday. He said, had we been stranded, on Antarctica for a year, it may be different. But on this trip, we were a great team. Everything went fine, and we had a blast.
Fantastic. And you raised even more money than you set out to do. Here's the big conclusion, because this was all for the Timmins Native Friendship Centre and its programming in James Bay communities. As we pull up the number on the screen, you set a good goal of $5,000. How'd you do overall?
Last night we checked, we were at $7,048, I think.
Yep, you're still there this morning. That's exactly where you are this morning.
And I do have another $30 donation that someone gave me in cash that I have to put in myself. So
fantastic. Ted, what's next? What's your next adventure?
Oh man, today's Valentine's Day. I haven't seen my wife in 2 weeks, so about to hop in the car and drive back home to Vermont.
That is a very good idea. That is a very good idea, and I don't know what you could have picked up along the way as a Valentine's Day gift along the way on that trip.
Yeah, exactly.
But she'll be happy to see you back safely anyway.
Absolutely.
Guys, it's been so much fun to meet you and to check back in, and people watching will be happy to know how it went. Thanks for the time again.
Thanks for your interest.
Thanks very much, Heather.
Great to have you on, Buck and Ted, and congrats as well to Eric and Ryan. Now, if you want to see more pics of this adventure, Facebook's the place. You just check out their page and search James Bay Descent on Facebook.